morning. I hope you're all having a great day. So today we're going to be going over Philippians 4 verses 10 through 13. So I'm going to go ahead and start by reading the section. It says, I rejoice in the Lord greatly because once again you renewed your care for me. You were in fact concerned about me, but lacked the opportunity to show it. I don't say this out of need, for I have learned to be content in whatever circumstance I find myself. I know how to make do with little, and I know how to make do with a lot. In any and all circumstances, I have learned the secret to being content. Whether well fed or hungry, whether in abundance or in need, I am able to do all things through him who strengthens me. So Paul is once again thanking the church of Philippi for their financial support. He is rejoicing in the Lord that during his time of need, they sent help. He says before he was sure that they had desire to help, that they always wanted to help him, but they didn't have the opportunity or the need wasn't there. So God uses everyday people like you and me to help his children. So I know for example, there's been times when I felt led to give money to a certain person and I didn't know the reason why. I just felt the need to give a certain amount. And later on, I found out the amount I gave was their exact need. They needed it to pay that bill. And so God used me to answer their prayer. And I know God has sent many people into my life for the exact same reason, the exact right time to answer the prayers of my heart. So if you feel the Holy Spirit leading you in any way, answer it, because it's such a blessing to give. And you may not know it, but you could be answering the prayers of somebody's heart. You could be a part of God's plan, which is incredible to think about. But then Paul goes on to say that even if they don't provide, he'd be okay. He's not complaining or trying to get more money. He's learned to be content with no matter what was going on in his life, if it had a little he had or a lot. So the contentment he's talking about comes from learning to trust in the Lord. So when he was well provided for or hungry, he was able to be content because he knew he was being obedient to God's will, and he was in that situation for a reason. He had complete trust in God. And then comes the famous verse, Philippians 4:13. And you see this everywhere. I know I saw all over the place growing up. For I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So although most people have this verse memorized, I've heard it throughout my entire high school career. I don't think most of those people who quoted it actually knew what it meant. So he's referring right here, you saw before we were talking about financials, ups and downs, and God providing whether he was lacking or needy. So this talks about God empowering us to live his will. So even if we feel our situation looks rough, if we are in God's will, we can trust that have complete faith. He will empower us or strengthen us to do it. So now God's not going to call you to do something and then not enable you to do it or strengthen you to do it. So this doesn't mean that if I stick it on my jersey, I'm going to win the football game, because somebody's got to lose. But when you read this whole passage in context, it makes much more sense. That's the most important thing. People always take verses out of context and try to apply it and use it for whatever they want to use. And it doesn't work that way. You need to read the whole passage, the whole chapter, the whole book to truly understand what God is saying in it. But this concept that he's talking about, it makes me think of another verse. It makes me think of 2 Corinthians 2:19. It says, actually it's 2:9, sorry. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weakness, so that Christ's power may rest on me. So when Paul was weak, lacking financially, God was able to use that weakness to strengthen him. His power was made perfect in Paul's weakness. So when I think of this, I think it's such a beautiful idea, such a beautiful notion. We don't need to be all independent like this world tries to make seem like we need to rely on our own strength for everything. Because God has called us not to be these independent people, but to be completely dependent on him, to find our rest in him, to find our comfort in him, our satisfaction in him. So I hope you learn the secret to being content in your life and learn to find some more time to just to rest in God's arms. All right, have a blessed day. Thanks.